Sexual harassment is any behaviour that makes you feel uncomfortable. This includes, but is not limited to, any unwanted talking, touching or exposing their sexual organs to.
I have had quite a bit of experience with street harassment, seeing as at home in the Netherlands. I live in a big city, and there you kind of are taught to expect it more, and that you should, like, every time you go out, pretty much you should expect to be harassed on the street. Like, I've been like harassed in the summertime, like wearing a skirt or something, like walking down my own street, and with my sister who's 15, which makes me feel even worse, because it's just, I feel like very protective of her, and I just feel like she shouldn't have to experience that at that age. And it makes me feel like I'm an object, like I'm being acted upon, instead of just like a person with feelings. And my opinion about street harassment is that I think it needs more to be taken more seriously, especially by men, because a lot of the time I think they see it as like that it's not a problem because it's flattering, because like a woman should feel flattered that she's considered to be like beautiful enough to be harassed in the street. Which I think is ridiculous, because it makes every woman who's ever experienced it, just makes them feel awful about themselves. Because the thing is that obviously, like, I mean, if I get a compliment from someone, like someone I know, or if it's in a certain different setting, like, I don't know, like for instance, like at it depends. Like if you're on a date or something, it's perfectly fine for a guy to come up to you and be like, oh, you look really nice, and it's a completely different setting. But if it's just a random stranger or someone who's just shouting at me from a car, of course I'm gonna feel awful about myself.
I think one of the biggest problems is the way sexual harassment is dealt with, and how people won't deal with it unless they see it as a very severe thing. For example, I've been at the SU before, and a group of guys surrounded me, about 6 or 7, and shouting stuff and getting closer and closer. I've gone and told security. I managed to get out, and their problem with dealing with it or throwing these guys out was the fact that they didn't actually touch me inappropriately. So they can shout things at me, they can circle me, they can intimidate me, but unless they actually physically sexually harass me, then they can't do anything about it. I found yesterday a thing on Facebook, I'm not really sure what it is, it's like a Facebook app called Rate Mash. Things like this always make me very, very angry and have my suspicions, so I had a look. And I found one of my housemates on it, so I went and told her. I thought she's not into a lot of the things that I am, sort of feminism-wise, so I thought she just liked the fact that she was rated on this app, and she was just absolutely disgusted that her picture and a link to her Facebook was on the internet for everyone to see, and anyone could go on it and without her permission, and it's just disgusting. I can't remember the line.
I think sexual harassment is at its worst when it's insidious and subtle. So when it's someone just following you around, talking to you, touching you, and it's not really obvious what they're doing to you at first. And maybe you think it's your fault, because maybe you think, oh, I shouldn't have dressed this way, or I did smile at him, or whatever. But it's not your fault. It's his fault. And I think that's where people don't really realise that's already harassment. If somebody doesn't leave you alone after you've asked them to leave you alone, that's already harassment. If somebody touches you and you don't want them to touch you, that's harassment. If somebody keeps saying sexual things to you or making jokes you're uncomfortable with, that's harassment. And it's not okay, and it's definitely not your fault. When you first start at university, there's lots of new stuff happening, you meet new people, you do new things, you get taught a lot, and sometimes it's quite difficult to tell which parts of those new things are normal and which parts might not be. And at first you kind of are tempted to go along with everything, because just all this new stuff's happening, and maybe you're told to loosen up a bit and to chill out, and it's not that big a deal, and everyone's just much more grown up than they were at school. But even if you're drunk or high or tired, people doing or saying stuff to you against your will is harassment, and it's not okay. And regardless of what you were wearing, what you were drinking, where you were, how early in the morning it was, whether you were outside, inside, at a friend's house, at the pub, it doesn't matter. It's not your fault, it's their fault, and it's also illegal. And I think it's just really important that the people who this is done to don't have to also feel the shame. because you're not the one doing the shameful thing. Your harasser is.
So, two things that the Students' Union at Royal Holloway are doing are firstly the zero tolerance policy to sexual harassment in all of our venues, which basically means no tolerance to sexual harassment. We're working on the policy because we've agreed with it for 2 years, and we're currently working with all the SU staff to make sure that everybody's completely clear on exactly what sexual harassment is and how to deal with it. The second thing we're doing is Monday, today, is the launch of the Hollaback, so Hollaback at Holloway, and what we're doing is you can report sexual harassment on your phone. You download this link, which you can get onto the SU website, and on it you can report sexual harassment and whereabouts it is if you don't want to report it fully, but it gives you all the information and support if you do want to take it to that extra step. So we are taking sexual harassment very seriously, so should you.